Good morning. It's another beautiful day in New York City. And as you can probably hear in my voice, the best laid plans, I seem to have the sniffles. I'm not COVID. That I know for sure. As my son says, I never miss an opportunity to go get my rapid test and PCR. Even though all things may not be equal, I trust in the tests. But let's think about what I'm thinking when I say all things aren't equal. When I see truth on social media, or I know that there is one truth, unfortunately, on social media, they give equal weight to both truth, misinformation, lies, and those lies are amplified. One of my friends described it as a spark. You Google something, you see a spark, and it's a little teeny spark. The next person who sees that spark, it's a little bit of a flame at the top of a match. And when the public finally sees the spark that you saw, it's now a raging inferno. Imagine that. And then imagine how our data is treated, right? We've searched for one thing, maybe innocuous, or we've looked at the data of something else, and all of a sudden, what we've done has been magnified, and magnified again and again, until it's a major conspiracy theory. And then many people look at it and say, whoa, that's truth. That's truth. And my God, it's so horrible. Well, it wasn't truth to begin with. And it wasn't truth, certainly, when it became violent and harmful at the end. Which reminds me about, are we equal? Are our political parties all the same? A pox on all our congressmen? I don't think so. I don't think so, not even a little. I'm very concerned about our democracy and the continuation of that democracy. And that's why I'd like to say the political parties are not equal. The Republican Party has already said they are the party of self-regulation or no regulation of corporations. They're the party of small government, not for the states, but for the federal government. They're for a balanced budget. And they don't think they'd really want to support Ukraine, especially if we go into recession. That's what they stand for. Did you hear anywhere that it says, hey, we stand for the people of our communities. We want to make sure that they've got clean air and clean water. We want to see corporations responsible for the cleanup of that water and air and maybe fossil fuel pollution? No, I didn't hear that either. I just heard we're for self-regulations of corporations, so it's an unfettered marketplace, which is a myth, because we all know the marketplace is now really controlled by some very, very big funds. Just like we know social media can be controlled by people with a lot of money. We know the oligarchs control social media platforms. They got the cash. We now know that there are a lot of conservatives out there putting billions into social media platforms. Why in the world do you think we've got climate denial? Or we've got vaccine denial? Or we've got the biggest demon you gotta face is a Democrat or an independent. Whoa, it makes me shake all over just to think that I might meet a Democrat or an independent. But what really makes me shake all over is that Republican platform. It's unrelenting in its accolades for corporate self-regulation. Self-regulation brings me to looking at the FDA site lots of times because beef, pork, poultry, you name it, it's being recalled because it's tainted. Self-regulation makes me look at the sites once again. Because what? We still probably don't have baby formula from Abbott? That's gotta be controlled. And why is all that happening? Because the Republican Party is so interested in self-regulation, they've defunded the FDA. They've defunded the NIH, the National Institutes of Health. When all that money that is being released from the Inflation Reduction Act for bridges and tunnels and roads and EV charging stations, and we can go on, they should be making jobs readily available for everyone. Biden doesn't want a recession, so what are those guys talking about? Nor does Jay Powell want a recession. They got to be very careful with the interest rate hikes. They've got to really know when they're going to press on the brakes because there's no need for us to have a recession. Already, folks can't afford to drive, can't afford food, and we got too many who are food insecure. Too many places that because of the climate, we're now fighting over water. Too many places with the fires bring pollution, and the pollution bring asthma and death to many. So we can't afford a Republican Party that's out of touch with America and Americans. How do you get revenue when you're spending debt and accumulating debt? Very easy. You look at FICA and you look at Social Security. Everyone gets Social Security. Why should there be a cutoff at $147,000? Why shouldn't everyone who makes a living be taxed to the limit of that living? 7.65%? Boy, that would do the revenue coffers proud. And then I'd put in the IRS, and a lot of them, to make sure that those folks at the top who are making the 40, 50, 100 million bucks a year, they're now getting taxed. Why should the burden of everything fall on the middle and lower classes? The folks who make $147,000 and less, a lot of them are barely getting by. When I see people in my travels and I ask them what are they making, they're still making maybe about $37,000. That doesn't go far. All I can say to those billionaires, instead of doing it so that you have party solidarity, maybe you could use a little bit of that money and spread it around for real research and development and real innovation so that people can have a decent living and a decent way of life. That's freedom. Freedom is to have a little breathing space so you can be with your families, so that you can have the ability to go to church, so you're not working 2, 3 jobs and you're able to make ends meet, and you got an apartment, and you got childcare and Wi-Fi connections. That's freedom. Freedom comes with responsibility. You need bigger federal government, not bigger state governments where everyone's an arbitrary fiefdom. You need to be able to respect the bureaucracy that makes everything work and the scientists that were there before. Innovation will get us out of our debt spiral. It'll also get us out of inflation. Come up with new ideas. With so many problems before us, the time is ripe for innovators and entrepreneurs, not solidifying one party over the other, and the other party, the Republican Party, is behind the times. It doesn't reflect the will of the people. It reflects their constituents, the corporations. And boy, if it was up to me, I'd make it so I increased their taxes back to 28%. 22 is a little too little. 28%, we get meaningful money into the country. So there's a lot of ways to make that debt ceiling not count and to make revenue for the country that can be used for research and development. No more do I want to hear, oh, those political parties are the same. They're not. And if you ask me personally, since I'm a follower of Timothy Snyder, I'm for Ukraine, and I'm for giving Ukraine whatever they need to defeat Russian oppression and deportation of their women and children. Ukraine does not belong to Russia, only in Putin's dreams. Meantime, as we're knocking the hell out of Russian troops, we should be having muscular diplomacy. There must be a way that we can reach Putin. Just like we can vote Trump's GOP out of office and have a working society, we can get rid of Putin in Ukraine and get back to governing our planet once again. So, God bless you, everyone, and see you next week. You can bet on it.